with that, I'd be very pleased to take your questions and chat about what's important to anyone in the room.
I have some questions about the expansion of the charter school program.
Sure.
What would you say to those that are afraid that the expansion is going to take away from the options already available?
Well, first thing that we need to do is to correct those who think this is not a public school option. A charter school is a public school. It's a public school that's free of some of the regulations and perhaps some of the contractual handcuffs that are placed on too frequently on our public schools today. And it allows teachers, parents, and administrators who want to institute a special program, a program to address local needs, to put that program into place. There are some very critical statistics we have to consider in that regard. Of the 62 charter schools that currently exist in our state, serving 22,000 students, about 66% of those students are minority students. 71% of them are on free and reduced lunch. So this is an option that parents, especially in inner cities, with the least advantaged kids, are opting, and it's making a difference for those students. There's some 3,500 students on waiting lists at charter schools in Indiana. So clearly, Hoosier families, Hoosier parents want this option for their student. It is no silver bullet. As people say, well, charter schools, you must think that's it. It certainly is not the silver bullet, but it is one of many options that we need to be sure is available. The way the bill is drafted right now, it's my hope that local school corporations, who are the ones who say now, gee, we don't want this, is going to take away public school money from public school students. Go back to the fact that these are all public school students, so money isn't being taken away from public school students. But it is going to give local superintendents, school boards, more options to address the key needs of students in their community. I know you have some struggles in your public school system up here right now. I was briefed on those last evening by Senator David Long, and know that your community is looking to see how do we solve those and how do we provide an excellent education for all students. That's our goal as well, and I believe this charter school proposal gives additional options to local school corporations to do just that.
The past legislators looked at research following charter schools. Are they impressed with the numbers and what they've researched?
It's difficult to say that you look at it and say, look at this huge improvement, because generally, as I indicated, some of the most disadvantaged students that have had a record, not necessarily of success, in their prior school are flocking to these schools. The programs are designed to bring them along. So while some detractors would point to the fact that they may have lower test scores in some regard, of the charter schools constitute about 2% of our state schools currently. Of the top 100 most improved schools in our state, 22 of those are charters. Of the top 10 most improved schools in our state over the last year, 5 of those are charters. So they are, again, not a silver bullet, but they are especially effective at reaching out to those who are underserved in disadvantaged communities and giving them an option that is right for their family.
Will there be any compensation to the public schools that are losing students to the charter schools?
Okay, this gets back to the primary fallacy about those who detract. These are public schools. They're public school students. Public school money, they're not new students that are coming to our state from other continents. They're Hoosier kids for which public school money is being appropriated now in a traditional school system, and it will follow them to a charter school system. So there shouldn't be loss of funds. In fact, it's my hope that with the way the bill is drafted now, that takes the authority to convert to a charter school away from just the teachers of the school, but places it in the hands of parents. It's a parent trigger. That places it in the hands of school boards, that those folks can be empowered to say, this is what's right for us, and not leave it to a union determination.
There are some folks that are having some issues with allowing private universities and colleges to authorize a charter school. Could you respond to that?
Yes, we did address that in the bill. Currently, there are only 2 authorities to charter, adequately charter schools in Indiana, and that's the mayor of Indianapolis and our public state institutions. And Ball State is the only one that has chosen to be the sponsor of a charter of a local charter school. We decided it was time to open that up, and we've done given the authority to 2 others to sponsor the charter. The first is, well, actually 3, the mayors of second-class cities. Fort Wayne. Just as the mayor of Indianapolis has some of the most outstanding charter schools in the state, we want to give that opportunity to other second-class mayors. Mayor McDermott of Hammond, yesterday a Democrat, endorsed the bill because he wanted to have a charter school in his community and appreciated that opportunity. We also are giving the authority to charter a school to private institutions, non-proprietary institutions of higher learning in Indiana. And my example is there's absolutely no reason why Notre Dame should not have the opportunity to sponsor a charter school. There's absolutely no, although I'm a Purdue engineer, there's absolutely no reason why Rose-Hulman should not have the opportunity to sponsor a charter focused on science and technology, and I've been informed that both of these institutions may be interested in pursuing this opportunity. Because of the concern, after you get down to some of the very small private colleges and universities, I'm uncertain. So what we placed in the bill was that those private universities and colleges have to be approved by the State Board of Education before they can issue a charter. So that was one of the many compromises that we've offered on the bill so far.
Is that going to help stem any separation of church and state concerns that there could be? I mean, if you go to Notre Dame, which is a private Catholic college, I mean, there could very much be that.
Absolutely not. Most folks aren't aware that the state funds college education for Hoosiers at public and private universities. So a SASE grant, which is straight tax money that each of us give toward higher education, can be taken by a Hoosier college student to any college in-state of their choice, whether it's Purdue or IPFW, Taylor University, Notre Dame. So we certainly have no concern about separation of church and state in that issue.
So tiny Marion University, whose president is on the State Board of Education and recently received a $500,000 grant from the Department of Education, could receive authority from the State Board of Education to operate a charter school?
Potentially, if Marion met all the criteria, which are lengthy, for approval of a sponsorship, and they showed that they had a program that was worthy of being sponsored, of course they could, as could Notre Dame and Rose-Hulman and all of our other universities. But just because of these issues and concerns, as people picked a small institution and said, what about this one? That's why we said the State Board of Education needs to take a look and give approval first. So that one, with the president being on the board, they'll have to figure out how to make that one work without
There's
conflict.
no restriction from a legislative standpoint. from
No.
that happening.
No, but again, as we pick out, as opponents are so fond of doing, as we pick out one possible scenario that might not work, we'll deal with that one if we need to as it arises. So we certainly don't want to